righty, ready to roll on a Wednesday, January the 22nd. It is the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. Or guess what? We talk a lot about Michigan football. I'd say we almost always talk just Michigan football, but sometimes we talk a little bit about Michigan basketball, Michigan hockey, and things that are going on with former Wolverines. And before we even get to what we're going to talk about today, there's some breaking news coming down the pike. And it is from the world of the NFL. Two things to let you know about that. The New York Jets have found their head coach. It's Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. So AG has been talked about a lot about him either going to the Saints or Jets. He is going to the Big Apple. So good luck to Aaron Glenn. The Lions lose both of their coordinators after losing to Washington on Saturday. So that's going to be tough for Dan Campbell and company to replace those guys. But when you are doing well and other teams are taking a look and saying, wow, look at the Lions. I mean, that comes with the territory. Also, the Raiders have their new general manager, and his name is John Spytek. He was the assistant GM with Tampa Bay. You could say, okay, thanks. We know Tom Brady's like has some ownership with the Raiders, so you see the connection there. But if you're, I don't know, I was going to say if you're old enough or you're just big-time Michigan fan, you will know that John Spytek played football at Michigan back in 99 to 2002. So a little bit of overlap. When Brady was a senior, Spytek was a freshman, and then Spytek was in Tampa, and then Tom Brady finished out his career down there with the Bucs. So the familiarity with Brady and Spytek is now in Vegas. I hope, if it's selfish or not, I would like to see. I don't feel like watching Tom Brady. It doesn't really do anything for me watching him on TV as a commentator. It doesn't, it just, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's moving the needle for a lot of people. He can get better. He's doing the Super Bowl this year. I hope he rides off into the sunset, and the sunset being Vegas, and then concentrates, and he's got a thing going on there in the desert. And that's what I would like to see. But we'll see what Tom Brady, I don't know if that's, again, selfish or not. It's just, he's not the greatest broadcaster, and I like to see him concentrate on being the owner of the Raiders. Now, when we talk about today, those things just happened. We have the college football season ending on a Monday night. I get some thoughts on that for you. I've got the pivotal position groups for 25. I thought I rearranged this title list, but no. And then I've got a way early top 25. We're going to start with the pivotal position groups for 25. And I think everybody's going to agree with these three, but maybe not. But I think you can understand where I'm coming from and go from there. Here's Matthew who says he loves Tom Brady as a commentator. So there you go. I find that universally across the country, I don't see many people saying they like Tom Brady as a commentator. It's like, I don't get really, it's, I don't know if it's weird or not. I think I need to get more ticked off at like random things than I don't think I'm better than most people, but I do find that people get more ticked off at random things than I do. Like broadcasters, I really don't have, when I'm watching a football game, that big of a deal. There was a little bit with Matt Millen when I would watch the former Lions GM, and he would talk with such authority about something. I'd be like, oh, all right, Matt. And, I didn't find him very informative, but I I think it was because he was the Lions GM. But to talk to just general fans, it is amazing. Like, I will turn down the broadcast. I will. This is guys. It's so irritating, and it can be anybody and almost everyone. But so that's just an aside for where I'm at. I do want to mention something because Matt also says he is looking forward to the Michigan Purdue matchup coming up on Friday night. This programming note. I will not be here on Friday for this show. If you're watching or listening on this feed, it's 3 times a week. I will not be available. I'm traveling on Friday, and I will not be available for the Good Afternoon Michigan football show. I am not going to be available for the Michigan basketball postgame show after Michigan and Purdue on Friday night either. I am going to Madison, Wisconsin to call Michigan and Wisconsin hockey on Friday and Saturday night. Thus, the inavailability for me on Friday. So just a note for you there. But check it out, the hockey broadcast. It's really easy to find if you go to MGO Blue and it says listen to the live feed, and it comes up in about a minute through the Varsity Network. And there you go. You can take in Michigan hockey via the radio with yours truly, providing color there in Madison at the Kohl Center. So looking forward to that. I will tape that Michigan basketball game and watch it before Monday's show. I'm going to be busy Sunday too, watching football all day. Not going to be as interested as I thought I was going to be in those championship games, but I'm still going to be interested. I know some people are like, I'm not even going to watch. I get, it's tough. I understand that part. All right, let's go to the position groups. The pivotal position group at number 3, I'm going to look at corner. Will Johnson, midway through the season, was hurt and was out. And we saw a lot of Jair Hill. We saw Amir Hall really come on, but Amir Hall is done. So now you're looking at a lot of guys that don't have a lot of experience at corner. We did see a little bit of Josiah Edmond, and Zeke Berry was playing nickel. Some of these guys might like Jaden McBurrows. If you said he's playing nickel, why do you got him? I'm just putting him on there. Or he's a safety. I could understand too if you really felt strongly about that, but this is just the guys that I put up there, and it could be it is subject to change. It is a fluid situation. They go through spring. It likely won't be the same list, but this is what I looked at as we sit here right now. So Hill was talked about a lot in glowing terms by Sharon Moore. They kept calling him Shug, and Shug I was expecting big things from him. He had an up and down season, but that experience, and I think that we will see him against New Mexico and the following week at Oklahoma as the starter. I'd say your guess is as good as mine on who the other corner will be opposite of Hill. If I had to guess right now, I'm just going to say Edmond. Could be McGuire's, could be Zeke Berry, could be one of the freshmen that are coming in, Shamari Earls, Jaden Sanders, could be Ricky Johnson, who was a portal addition last year for Michigan from UNLV. We didn't see much of Ricky Johnson. Jeremiah Lowe, didn't see much of him on the field either for U of M. All of those guys are in the mix. Depth chart, I think, fluid. Even if you're talking to Sharon Moore, you're talking with Lamar Morgan, the defensive back coach. These guys are saying, yeah, we like them all. We'll see. Maybe there'll be more than one. Maybe the guys that are going to start the first game will not be the guys that will start come the start of the Big Ten. But position group number 3, what do you say? It's a question mark, or it's just pivotal. They need to find, some. You're only going to be as good at this team as you are with your corners, and so they're going to need some guys to emerge. But the good thing is they got a lot of bodies there, and they also, with the availability of round 2 of the portal, if they don't feel good about where they're at there, then they could go to obviously the portal. So that's it. I'm just going to take a couple more feedback here. I was saying I don't like to get to that feedback. Todd Johnson says he doesn't care for Collinsworth. Yeah, I think what you find is the bigger the spotlight, you're going to have more people that are going to be against a particular broadcast crew or color commentator. Now, Todd is saying he doesn't like Chris Collinsworth. I mean, I find Chris Collinsworth pretty tame. Now, if it's irritating that you don't like the way that he says pass rush because he can't say it, they're really got to work, Mike, on their pass rush, and he can't say it. It could tick you off, but that he loves everyone. I go back. John Madden used to be accused of that all the time. Brett Favre, he loved Brett Favre so much, and Collinsworth does the same thing. Patrick Mahomes, Mike, I just love Patrick Mahomes. It's kind of the same thing. We get the same thing if you go over Tony Romo. He loves the Cowboys or, whatever. But I get it. I get that. Otis says some are reporting that the transfer portal is gone. Players can transfer any time of the year and be immediately eligible to play for their new team. Yeah, Otis, I don't know, the some are reporting part. Anything can happen when you look at college football. That would be weird anytime. I saw that they wanted to get rid of the spring. They want to. I think the one thing that you have to remember is that you do have the courts, so trying to get rid of it, but just have a free for all and movement. One thing that I do know is that the Big Ten is trying to lead the way and getting a collective bargaining agreement together so that you can have some rules and they're not just going to have this wild free agency that is, willy-nilly that ticks a lot of people off. And I don't know if there's a genesis, but there was a flashpoint. If you saw the player from Wisconsin who went to Miami and Wisconsin didn't want to give him his release, well, Wisconsin's part is that they had signed him to some sort of NIL deal, and then the next day or something, the U called him up and said, "Oh, well, we'll just beat that price." And then he was like, "Peace, I'm out." And Wisconsin's like, "No, we're not going to release you." And then the ADs a couple of weeks ago now, if you were on the Maize and Blue review, I was commenting on this weeks ago. But if you have just watched this over the last week, the Big Ten was behind Wisconsin. We're like no, we've got to do something. So yeah, how things are constructed right now. You just remember last week, the Biden put in that you had to match $1 for $1 with 29. I don't know. I saw Trump signing all those big stack of papers, of all these things. I don't know if the Title IX thing was in there or not, but at some point that's going to cross his desk, and we'll see what he does there. But yeah, it's that wouldn't be a huge shocker if there was a surprise like that. Okay, so that's my thoughts on pivotal position group number 3. Pivotal position group number 2, I'm going to look at wide receiver. And I think that wide receiver is going to change by the time Michigan hits the field. Change in that I think there's going to be some additions to this position group. If somebody was making a case, I saw over on the Den and the Maize and Blue Review that there's a wide receiver from, I believe, UConn. Was it Yale or UConn? One of those two that is going to end up with Michigan. But as it sits right now, McCulley from Indiana, who didn't play last year, but was pretty good for the Hoosiers the year before, could he be the number one? As we sit here right now, there's a lot of there's unknown. We haven't really seen him. I got to be honest. I don't really remember watching him play. He's a bigger wideout, but we're talking about that he could be Michigan's number one wideout right now. That is a pretty big question mark. We've seen Fred Moore. He caught that touchdown in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We've seen him in some other spots. We've also seen. What game was it where it was one of the early games? I think it was the one where Davis Warren threw 3 interceptions. So what was that, Arkansas State, where people were complaining that Fred Moore was pulling up and had to get over there and play some defensive back himself. But if you said that Fred Moore was Michigan's number one option as wide receiver, I think that I could see you saying that. I thought that Samaj Morgan would be an all Big Ten wide receiver this year. I said that heading into the year. I really like Samaj Morgan. I love his athleticism. I saw enough of him route running, not this past season, but the year before, sitting down, being available, then run after catch, and then having the ball in his hands. I thought I wasn't even stopping at all Big Ten with his ceiling. But then this year with the quarterback situation, and I don't know if he was involved with something mid-season that kind of put him behind the 8 ball. There's some uncertainty there. But right now, those are the top 3. McCulley, Fred Moore, and Samaj Morgan. After that, there's 3. Kendrick Bell, was out there in the bowl game. He pops up every once in a while. Peyton O'Leary made the beautiful catch against Ohio State. He's back. Amarian Walker has the tools, the athletic ability, the 3-cone, the greatest 3-cone ever. That's the athletic ability part. He's big, he's rangy, and so who knows? He's moved around a lot. Maybe some stability, a spring, a summer. Could he get into the 2 deep? Could we see Amarian Walker out there? So there's 6 guys right there. And then we have the next 6. I feel like these are hockey lines. You got your top line of McCulley, Moore, and Morgan. You got your second line of Bell, O'Leary, and then Walker. And then you've got 3 guys, 2 of them that were freshmen last year that didn't see the field. Shannon Goodwin, who you hear a lot about behind the scenes. That's not a bad thing. There have been a number of people that said, yeah, this is going to be the next guy who you want to keep an eye on. Hadn't really heard much about Amarian Stewart, but he's there, and I think it'd be a big spring to see what we might hear, if he's going to be part of it or not. If we don't hear anything at all out of the spring, and then it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, or whatever. CJ Charleston was the transfer, who a good blocker, but there wasn't much more than that from CJ, but, he's still around. I think he's still going to be around. He's eligible. I hadn't seen that he was out. So I have him on the 3rd line. And then you've got the 3 incoming freshmen. Jamar Browder, who is out of Florida. Andrew Marsh. Now, Marsh is from, where's he from? Texas. Marsh from Texas, and then Jacob Washington, the speedster from Louisiana. Florida, Texas, Louisiana, speed. So one of those guys, could one of those guys be a big surprise and move up into the top 3? Yes. And then there's the possibility of the transfer portal. I name all the names. You're like, I want to know, who it's going to be. I don't think that Ron Bellamy or Sharon Moore could really tell you. I think if you talk to Sharon Moore, he might say Fred Moore and Samaj Morgan and Peyton O'Leary. Those are our three guys. But you've got all those guys. It could be really. I could feel like you could pick your three, and then I could put a bag and pick the next three. And my three out of the bag might be more impactful than yours. I think that's the kind of uncertainty when it comes down to the receiving core for next year for U of M. Keegan is saying that Browder is a receiver that can actually catch the ball. Well, Keegan, if what you say is true, that would be good. That's like a shot. I don't know. I don't. Was it a problem with Michigan's wide receivers? Were drops a problem? It was more of it was a quarterback problem, Keegan. Maybe you could have had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams and, out there as Michigan's wide receivers. If you don't have a quarterback that's able to throw on the ball, Sam Laporta at tight end, you still have to, the quarterback's the big part there. So it's nice that Browder, that you're saying he can catch the ball, but you're telling me that Moore can or Morgan can or whatever else. I don't know. Keegan, following up on his point, says it's common that athleticism gets all the attention and then guys can't catch. Yeah, you do need to be the complete package. But, I hear you on that, Keegan. It reminds me of the combine every year, that you'll go out there and you'll have a wide receiver. Who was it this year that ran the greatest? It was Xavier Worthy, right? Xavier Worthy. And he wasn't all that bad. Now he's in a great spot with the Chiefs. He had Patrick Mahomes. Not bad. Then the first game, what did he have? 2 touchdowns. An end around, took another one. It wasn't really his speed, but Xavier Worthy ran the greatest 40 time ever. But some of those guys that we have seen down through the years, if you look at the top 10 wide receiver combine numbers, you'll look at them all and there's nobody on there. It's like Tyreek Hill's not on there. And you'll look and it's not a who's who. In fact, it's a who are these guys? Like there was John Ross before? Something, it was close to that. He went to Cincy. He had the record before Xavier Worthy. Well, I don't even know if he's in the league anymore. And it's like that through the top 10. So I know what you're saying. It's great to have track speed and have super athleticism. That's the thing with Amarian Walker. The 3-cone would have been Amarian Walker's 3-cone time with Michigan, whatever the report was with his 3-cone time, would have been, I think, the second best, maybe the best ever 3-cone in the NFL combine. So you're talking about, wow. And 3 cones, it's not nothing. You're talking about a guy being able to cut and stop and start, and like, wow, that's really nice. That seems like it would really come in handy. Getting off the line, getting out of a route, of exploding, down the field, all these different things. That seems like a very good thing to have as a great 3-cone. But we really haven't seen Amarian Walker do anything, really, for U of M. So I hear what you're saying when it comes down to receiver. Dexter says, I remember like 4 drops. Well, there wasn't that many passes to the guys. That's the thing where you think about drops. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the biggest drops that I remember actually were from Colston Loveland in the first couple games. Like he had at least 2, and then he had a fumble maybe on one. I was like, wow. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's probably going to be a first-round pick and one of the great receiving tight ends, if not the best receiving tight end ever at Michigan. And he had half of them. So that's it. We got Marmar getting in on Michigan having the best win of the whole nation. We beat the current national champs. We're going to get to that coming up in just a moment. Todd is talking about the passing game. And Keegan says that the wide receiver is out of UConn that I was referencing. These glasses seem to be a little bit crooked. Why don't we try another pair? Oh, yeah. That's a lot nicer. Hadley asking about if I am working with Michigan legend Al Randall on the radio broadcast. I'll listen on Friday since the game is on the Big Ten Plus. And as you know, you're up against the Purdue game. Yes, that's right. Although the hockey game's on a little bit earlier, so you might be able to do both. Yes, I'll be working with the great Michigan hockey play-by-play man, Al Randall L. So I am looking forward to doing that. So, yeah, thanks, Hadley. Looking forward to the game. Well, people talking about the passing game, and if you're just joining us, let's recap the pivotal position groups, the three that I'm laying out here today. The corners at number 3. Pivotal position group number 2, the wide receivers. And pivotal position group number 1 is quarterback. And quarterback is everybody has a guess. Everybody has an idea, but does anybody really know if Bryce Underwood is going to be the Michigan quarterback on August the 30th when Michigan hosts New Mexico? You can say I think there's a path for him to start. I also think if you're a Michigan fan, you say, yeah, this guy's going to be the greatest quarterback ever at Michigan, a local prodigy. Why not? Let's just roll with it. And, I hear that. There's others a little bit more like you get that it could take a little time. He is going to turn 18 mid-August, pretty young. I like what sounds very reasonable to me is that Bryce Underwood would make his first start against Wisconsin. And that is the 5th game of the year. Not that he won't play against New Mexico or at Oklahoma or against CMU or Nebraska. I think he will. And it wouldn't be a shocker if he started from game 1. But I think this is the most reasonable guess. And so if you like prudence, if you like being objective and reasonable, this is the projection for you. Michigan plays New Mexico, then they go to Oklahoma, then they're playing Central, then they play Nebraska, and then they'll have a bye. And then after the bye, they host Wisconsin. So you get your feet wet with Underwood. You get him out there and having the experience. You get into the Big Ten, and then you have the bye week. And then he's up. And then he starts, for the next, the rest of the year and hopefully the next 3 years, but, maybe the next 2. If he's great, he goes to the pros. So that is my reasonable, prudent guess about when he starts. So you got Mikey Keene. It's a pivotal position group. We saw what happened this year. Davis Warren is a question mark coming back from his knee injury, if he's even going to be able to compete come September. That's right around the timeline where you think a guy might be able to come back, but those are always give or take a couple weeks. And if you're talking about him possibly not being ready to go until October. And, how much is he really going to be able to practice? And, so your guess is almost as good as mine when it comes down to that. Davis is a wild card. He's there. He's was highly thought of recruiting wise. Did not get great reports out from what they saw initially of him as a true freshman, but he was just a true freshman. And so wouldn't be surprised to me if they even went back to the transfer portal again, considering what what they don't know in the uncertainty with Davis Warren. That's what I see. So those are the three pivotal position groups to me. And I'm with Todd right now. And, Keegan is saying if they think they can make the playoff, they need to start Bryce. I think if we were all sitting around right now, you got Chip Lindsey, Michigan's new offensive coordinator, and Sharon Moore, and we're all just sitting around talking about it. And Keegan said, hey, if you guys want to make the playoff, you need to start Bryce. I think they would say, we want to make the playoff, Keegan. But it's not as easy as just saying, let's just, start him. He's got to be ready. He's got to earn it. And there's a chance that he does do that. I think that they would I want Bryce Underwood to start game one. I want Bryce Underwood to go into fall camp, get out there on the field, just be throwing lasers all over the place, look like he is advanced beyond his years, look like he is just the greatest thing ever, knows the playbook front and back, commands the respect from all of his teammates because this guy is just an unbelievable talent, and he's bringing it right off the bat to the field. And he's just wowing everybody. And then he'll start, and that would be great. And so that is the best case scenario. When you think about quarterback, but it makes me think also about Mason Graham. Mason Graham had tons of players down at defensive. Mozzie Smith was there. You just think about all of the guys that he had in front of him. And Mason Graham started as a true freshman with all of this great talent around him and in front of him. And he started from game one. And I remember just the last time that I heard from Sharon Moore, it was at signing day. He was talking about Mason Graham, and he said Trevor Keegan came to him during spring practice. They didn't even, they show up for spring and then they're out there. Trevor Keegan said that Mason Graham was the best defensive tackle that he ever went against in spring. He knew it right away. It wasn't like Michigan got their hands on him and molded this clay and, made him the success. He came in and was great right off the bat at a position. Usually it takes a year when you think about the strength and conditioning you have to do and everything as a defensive lineman. And Graham was the best that Keegan had ever seen. And he's going against great players right there. So maybe Underwood is that. So there is that chance. I'm hoping that it is going to be the chance. Let's see. We'll take a few here. Then I'm excited to get into the end of college football. As weird as that sounds. Adam says, I want Bryce to win the job, but I'll have to see. The O-line and the receiving weapons will dictate if it's a good idea or not. Well, that's going to help, certainly. If you have a really good offensive line and the receiving weapons are going to help you be able to realize where you're at. I think that's part of the equation, but I don't think it's the first or second thing that's going to dictate whether it's a good idea or not. Now, yeah, like if the offensive line is having trouble and, Bryce is still really good and you see the quarterbacks getting wiped out, you might say they're in big trouble if that's the case. If Bryce has got no time and he's throwing the ball out there and the receivers are sitting him in the hands and dropping it, it's like they're going to be in trouble there. So I hear what you're saying when it comes down to that. Tell Dexter to unblock me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I didn't know you could block somebody, so I don't know his reasoning that he is blocking you. So let's I put it out there for you to see. I'm not sure. So they always do this, and it makes me laugh. Because you hear people, who did I see saying that they should not have, they say it every year, somebody says it, that they shouldn't have a top 25. They shouldn't have a top 25 until October. They shouldn't have a top 25 until November. Shouldn't have the college football rankings. I get all of that. And then the day after, the college football season ends, every website comes out with a way too early top 25. It was old Stallions, Connor Stallions was like, there was a point to what Stallions was saying. It was that it affects the top 25 is affecting the computers and how they are ranking them, and he is correct in that. But if you think about it just as a guide, and a way too early top 25, this could really change by the time we get to September, where you look and say these are going to be the teams that would be in the top 25. But ESPN did a way too early top 25. There's, like I said, everyone does one. I didn't list out all of the ones, but here's what I thought was interesting. Ohio State, number 1. Penn State, number 3. These are the Big Ten teams in the way too early top 25. Oregon at number 6. Illinois, it was a little bit of a surprise to me, at 13. Indiana at number 17. And then Michigan at 21. So that is 6 teams out of the Big Ten that are in the way too early top 25. Do you know, looking at that, what jumps out to you the most? I want somebody to tell me what jumps out to them the most when they see this list. Buckeyes, Nittany Lions at 3, both of them. I'm sorry, I was going to say both of them need quarterbacks. That's not true. Aller is back, but the Buckeyes and Ducks both need quarterbacks. Illinois' QB is back. Indiana's going to need a quarterback. They got the big transfer, right? Michigan's got, we'll see. We just talked about them and what they're going to do at QB. QB's not everything, but it is one thing to take a look at. The thing that jumps out to Rip is that Illinois and Indiana is ranked higher than U of M. I'll buy that. The thing that jumped out to me is that Michigan only plays one of these teams. Michigan only plays next year on their schedule Ohio State, who they've beaten 4 times in a row. Michigan does not play Penn State or Oregon or Illinois or Indiana. Does that mean Michigan has an easy schedule? Well, I would say that if we're basing it on the way too early top 25, yeah, that Michigan has an easy schedule. Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC are Michigan's first 3 games. Then Washington, Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, and Maryland. None of those teams are in the way too early top 25. That jumps out to me. And then, having Ohio State on that. That's a nice schedule. I remember Indiana this year, they were getting smacked over. I can just see, and maybe it's already happened. Maybe Heather Dinich has already been on some ESPN shows talking about next year, and she's already saying, Michigan's not going to have a very good strength of schedule because they don't play anybody until the last game of the year. And so when these college football rankings come out, Michigan's going to be the one that's going to be very controversial because they're going to have all these wins, hopefully. And they're going to be in a situation where they haven't played anyone. I don't know if you need to brace for that or not. I think that's good news. And then we really don't know. Maybe USC jumps up and Washington, and they're a lot better. I don't think Michigan State's going to be better, or Purdue or Northwestern or Maryland. Michigan's got a really nice schedule. Big Ten schedule. So that is what jumps out to me. So that's going on. Adam says IU had the easiest Big Ten schedule, it seemed. Yeah, well, they certainly did this last year. Andres is saying, what is he saying? Nebraska, Whiskey, and USC could easily be ranked before conference play. The media loves them. Does the media love Nebraska? Because they got Raiola. Does the media love Wisconsin? I don't know. I see USC, although, the USC would say, well, I guess they got the bright lights of Hollywood and Lincoln Riley, and it is a blue blood program. I think the media, even though I think USC would say there's an East Coast bias because they didn't watch it play. That's one of the big reasons, along with all the money that they get, that they wanted to be involved in the Big Ten. But I would agree with USC because they're a blue blood. Media likes what the fans like. And the TV networks want to put out what the fans like. The fans like USC because they're familiar with them. They know what Lincoln Riley has done with, save last year, the quarterback position. Heisman Trophy. USC, blue blood. But, USC? I mean, Wisconsin? Nebraska? Those aren't media darlings. I mean, I don't know. That's just my thought on that one. And I would agree that Indiana had the easiest schedule. It was the point on that. Now, college football. So it ends on Monday. And if you want to put a thought in on what you thought of the season with the new 12-team playoff, I don't really need a wrinkle of, you want them to do this, or you want them to start the season at week 0, or you want to push it up even further. It went to, but we know how long it went, and it did seem to go too long. We had, was it 8 or 9 more games, like big time games than we normally do? I thought I would really like that. I did like it, but it was, for me, it felt, we always say you got to be careful of college football becoming too much like the pros. It really felt like the pros, where you had so many rounds of playoff games. And yeah, there were some of them, not all of them in the games actually weren't all that great, but you had a lot more of them. I always thought, more compelling games is going to be better for Dennis, who wants to sit around and likes watching college football. But it also seemed like it did, and college football is my favorite sport. It did seem to drag out because I'm used to it being over earlier. So is that an adjustment? I think they do need to get it done quicker. They need to get it done as close to the new year as they can. If that means putting Army Navy somewhere, I know that. Yeah, I'd be in favor of that. Put them on a Friday. Put them on a Monday. Can they get into week 0? I told everybody I don't need all of your little tweaks, but then I'm giving you some. But they got to move it up a little bit. The biggest thing out of all of that, what could change, and this is the part that I don't know that it's going to change, it's the presidents, the athletic directors, and the TV execs. Those are the 3 that have to get together and say, we want to do what's best for college football. Because we could sit around and tell you if they don't really need conference championship games because they have this now, that would eliminate a week. They don't really need to have Army and Navy as standalone. There's another week. You could push the games up even in front of week 0, and you're getting in the summer. But what do people say? Traditionally, those aren't good TV months. The last 2 weeks of August, people are on vacation. They're not back to school. They're not traditionally sitting in front of their TVs. They're doing other things. They don't get good TV ratings. The TV execs are like, no, we want Labor Day because those are good ratings. We're paying you guys through the nose. So we dictate when you get the game. So the TV execs, and I don't know how much pressure the ADs and the presidents like all that money. So I don't know what kind of force they can put on the TV execs. So a blend. Good ideas, TV, and how much money that they can realize that they're the ones that are calling the shots. How much are they willing to bend to make the sport better? That's what I see. Now, when it came down to Ohio State winning, That game, if you turned off the game on Monday night, I completely understand. It was 31-7 at one point. I have to admit, I had my phone out and I was playing a poker game. And I'm playing and I'm looking up and I'm playing I was just half watching the game, half playing poker. The first drive by Notre Dame really had my attention. It was awesome. 10-minute drive. But then Ohio State just went to work, and it felt like it was over at the half. And then when they were up 24, it felt like it was over. And then slowly Notre Dame makes it a game. And man, when Ohio State turtled up and ran Howard twice and then had 3rd and 11 before they threw the bomb to Jeremiah Smith, if that could have just been incomplete, and Notre Dame would have been able to go down there and win the game, that would have been so devastating to Ohio State. They had the national championship locked up in a cakewalk, and they almost, did they almost blow it? It was at least set up almost where they could have blown it. Notre Dame had the great first drive, had my attention, and then for the rest almost of the game until the very end, I thought, this is over. I almost thought about turning it off 2 or 3 times, but then I didn't. And then there was a minute or two, at least a minute, where I was like, oh my gosh, this could be just completely devastating for Ohio State. But it wasn't. We know that they won. So they're the champs. So Michigan fans, I liked this graphic that was put up, and I grabbed it from Blue by 90. They're comparing the champs from this year, Ohio State, to last year's champs, Michigan. And they asked the question, did you beat your rival? And the answer for Michigan is, yes, they did. They beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan State. The answer to Ohio State is no. They lost to Michigan for the 4th time in a row. The other question on here, did they play in Indianapolis? The answer over here for Michigan, yeah, they did. That was the 3rd year in a row last year. They won all of them, won the Big Ten, played in Indy. Ohio State, no, they did not. You got an X there. Did you win the Big Ten? Michigan last year, and then the 2 previous years, 3 years in a row, they won it. You get the check mark. Won the Big Ten. Well, Ohio State did not play for the Big Ten championship, and they lost, so they get an X there. And then Michigan last year went undefeated all the way through. They did not drop a game, and they get the check mark there. Ohio State lost to Oregon, and they lost to Michigan. A lot of X's on that side when you compare the two. I think that's the graph that if you're a Michigan fan, you feel like if you want to talk to an Ohio State fan, you can use, if that's something that you like to do. I've said this a few times, but maybe you didn't hear me say it. If Michigan did not have the season that they had last year or the previous 2 years, but especially last year when they won it all, but really the last 3 years, it was such an exceptional run of winning the Big Ten, going to Indianapolis, going to the college football playoff, and then the progression of actually beating Alabama in the Rose Bowl and then winning the national championship. If they didn't have that, I don't think I would have felt the same about Ohio State being in the championship game, about Ohio State winning the championship game. But since Michigan beat Ohio State's and the best team this year, they won it on the field. That's not, I don't know, it is a consolation prize, but considering that Michigan went 8-5, it makes you feel pretty good. And you could say whatever you want, but winning streaks get your attention. It's weird, even in baseball, basketball, and hockey, but even in baseball, they play 162 games. they're on a losing streak or winning, losing every other night. You're watching, but let's say the Tigers sweep a team. 3 in a row, get your attention. And then it went 4 in a row. It really is like, wow. The Pistons went 4 in a row. You're thinking, hey, this is pretty good. Same thing with the Red Wings. And they were doing that with McClellan. Not so much right now, but McClellan took over. They got on a little bit of a winning streak. If you put that into terms of a 12-game regular season and a baseball season, I wouldn't even win like 20 or something like. So Michigan, the won 3 in a row, including Ohio State. You feel good about that if you're a Michigan fan. All right, that's what I have for you today. Let's see where the people are at. Take some feedback. Anything that is out there for you. Let's see what people are saying. I want to go back to where I was with the last one. Todd said it was improved with issues, talking about the college football playoffs. I think that's a good way to say it. Nice and neat, Todd. I mean, that was a nice and neat way to say it. Keegan says the matchups were bad with that large of a playoff. Yeah, I think that's the little tweak that they'll make, Keegan. I think that they won't give those automatic buys. They put the buys in when there was a Power 5, and then it was a Power 4, and then you looked at it. There were better matchups if they didn't do it that way. The money part, you're right. Yeah, they're going to do what's best to make the most money. That is what it all comes back to. The whole thing was bad, even putting it up the same day as the inauguration. Yeah, I mean, let's see. The inauguration, I don't know if it goes on all day. I mean, I saw it at noon. I saw it at 1. Was it really going on at 8, 9 o'clock at night still? I think maybe. I don't know. It could be. Could have been. Andres. Ohio State just had the greatest but season of all time. Todd is saying the field goal had to go. Notre Dame's field goal? Yeah, the one that they missed. Rip asking me about my beard. Do I use a straight razor to line up that beard? I've never used a straight razor. I've always thought about going into the barber shop and having them come out with a straight razor. Maybe one day I'll do that, Rip. I think chicken wings might be the way to go before that. A challenge from Ferris. Stop being a casual. Hit the like button. There you go. Rip is, I don't know what that means. Well, let's see. Smash the numbers. You can't claim a national championship without winning the game. The only meaningful statistic is the number of times you beat Michigan. Woody Hayes did say that in the 60s. So does it still apply today? Yes. Yes, it does. There's a tongue-in-cheek greatest run of all time. It's a natty light. I like that. A natty light for Ohio State. I'll be taking that one from you, Rip. I've seen people say this, that the impact of the game is diminished for both schools, which is true. Is it worth it? I thought that it would be worth it. And what the thing is that my anticipation for the game, it was different because Michigan had 5 losses. And I thought that they were going to get beat. They were damn near 20-point underdog, the biggest underdog ever. So, but, winning the game, it didn't feel like anything was diminished. But overall, you're correct. If you're going to have more teams and everything else, but this wasn't in 2022, Michigan beat Ohio State. They still made the playoff. They still could have won the national championship there. So it's already been diminished. Would you want to go back to where there would be only, no No playoff? I don't know. 2? I want to go backwards. 4? No, I don't want 4. I mean, it didn't have to be 12 for me. I thought 8 was the way to go, but I know, but immediately people are 16. I mean, I think the game's great. If they have to play twice, if they have to play 3 times, I'll be all right with it. Who gets drafted first, Mullings or the Don? It's a good question. I'll say Donovan Edwards to that. I think the Don's speed at the 40 in Mullings' speed, I think will be the separator for those two. I like the math that it's been 1,880 days since Ohio State beat Michigan. That's good. Couple more. Marmar works with a lot of OSU fans, and they're not gloating like we did when we won it all because they didn't beat Michigan. Keegan, would Michigan have won this year's terrible playoff? You mean if they had last year's team this year? Yeah. I think they would have. Would they have gone undefeated? That's a good question. Would they have beat Texas? The tough part is that you have to do, not only are you doing a lot of gymnastics there, you're also saying, okay, well, if J.J. McCarthy came back and he didn't get hurt, so you playing the what ifs, but I'll play the what ifs. What if JJ didn't get hurt and everybody else came back, or if they just played, you just push everything up. How would this year's team done against last year's schedule? Because remember, last year's schedule was pretty easy breezy. And then I do think Michigan's team last year would beat Texas. I do think would they have beaten Oregon? Yes. The game is at home. I think they could have beaten Oregon. Would they have gone to Indiana? Oh, they only lost by Indiana with this year's team by 5. Yes, I think they would have gone to Indiana and won that game. Would they have beaten Ohio State? They beat Ohio State with this year's team. Last year's team, this year's team, last year's teams this year, this year's teams last year. They're beating Ohio State. Michigan's in Ohio State's head. And then would Michigan have, even if Ohio State had a tough road, would they have beaten Tennessee at home? Yes. But say they wouldn't have been, they would have had a bye because they would have won it all. So there's some more gymnastics that you'd have to move through. But I mean, I feel confident in Michigan, and they handled these great Ohio State teams. They could have handled any of these other teams and gone through. So that's it. FK is saying that college football is now similar to college basketball, and the Olympics. It's just a 4-week sport. I hear it. I see it. Now, there's no question here, but I would like to say thank you to Towns Health Services for the tip for this show. You are free to, at any time, send a tip over to the show. But if you're the THS, he's a big tipper. And I want to thank him, her, Michigan fan. Thanks very much. It's been a great month from Towns Health Services. So thank you. It's appreciated. What else do you want me to talk about? Let's do it. Thank you. I like this point. In November, the game will be between the two last champions. I like it. It's good. It is. Towns is my guys. Yeah, he is. Let's do it. All right. Andres lives in Ohio. Everyone at work was in their OSU gear. People naturally avoided me and my Michigan gear, still in their proper place. If we're just talking gear for a moment, I've got to go back to this past weekend. And Saturday, I was down in Ann Arbor at a gym. And you know how it is that you're at the gym, you're doing something, and then you got to wait like a minute or two before you do the next thing. And so you kind of just look around. I was looking around and it's like, man, that guy's got a Lions hat on. Guy's got a Lions shirt on. Wait a second. Everybody's got their Lions. There's like so much. It's understandable. I mean, the Lions had the great year. They were the number 1 seed. They were the heavy favorite against the Commanders, and people were out just waiting for Saturday night. And it was a cool thing to look around and see. A lot of Honolulu blue and silver just standing out. Wow. I was at that same gym today. I was looking around. I was like, I don't see one Lion. Lion stuff's packed away. Okay. All right. Let's see if we have any last ones. Ferris is dropping the conference title games. All the top 10 teams play one home game and one away game against another top 10 team. No rematches. Then pick a final 4. Will the TV executives go for drop the conference title game? I don't know. I mean, you're telling you'll have great games anyways and great matchups. I'm not sure they'll do it. Rip is thinking Towns. Yeah, I'm thinking Towns. Thank you. A program reminder, no show on Friday at 2. No Michigan basketball postgame live. Check out Michigan hockey on the radio. Michigan at Wisconsin Friday night and Saturday night. I'll be the color commentator as the Wolverines take on the Badgers. And, there's only 10 games left in the regular season for hockey, and this is a battle for 4th place in the Big Ten. And Michigan and Wisconsin have the same amount of points. And the first team gets a bye for the Big Ten tournament. So if you're the 4th place, that means that this is the 4th spot gets home ice throughout the first 3 games of the Big Ten tournament, which is a really big deal. So Michigan is in need of 2 points. It's a big game on the sheet of ice up at the Kohl Center. And check out the game over there on MGO Blue. Between now and then, we'll see you over on the Den. And that is on the Maize and Blue review. And I was going to tell you, who's Michigan? Oh, Michigan's got a defensive end coming in this week. A highly touted, Ty Haywood was a highly touted offensive tackle that was in last week. This is for still this recruiting class. Michigan is bringing in a defensive end out of Philly, Zaire Mathis. And Michigan, I don't know if you'd look, I'm not I would say a guru, but Michigan is getting a visit from him. February 5th is not that far away. You're getting a visit from a kid who's making a decision on February the 5th and Mathis. And who knows? When you only got 2, I kind of like the kids waiting around. It gives you a little excitement, but I also think it could pay off for the kid. It's like Michigan's got everything, and then they're like, can we, scratch together a few more bucks, maybe make a run at this guy? And so something to keep an eye on. If you want to keep an eye on it around the clock, then, the Maize and Blue review is for you. That's what we're doing. We're keeping an eye on what's going on with Zaire Mathis this weekend and what's going to be happening with him and Haywood. And, it's the 25 is not even done, but 26 is lining up. Everybody, talking about Hyder, running back, and looking at the QBs. It's all there. I myself was looking at the wide receiver crop for 26, and I noticed that there was a kid out of Cass Tech that was in the top 5, and I thought, that seems like a must-get for Michigan. Those are the kind of things that are going on and being talked about over on the Maize and Blue review. Let's see you over there Go to michigan.rivals.com. It is the place to be, and that is what is happening. Thank you so much for watching or listening on the podcast. I appreciate all the feedback, all the likes, all that kind of stuff. And until Monday, everybody have themselves a great week. We'll talk to you then. So long.